Well, good morning, my friend, and welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. Good to have you with me on this 24th day of September. Man, this month is going by fast, and it's good to have you with me. Had a good time in the San Francisco Bay Area, getting ready to fly out to get back home. I'll be home tonight for our evening services as we continue our series on the art of communication. And tonight, going to be talking about communicating with reproof and the importance of learning how to communicate when we've been reproved. Always, always important that we learn that. And so thankful for the times that I have been reproved, even though I didn't like it. It helped me, and I want to talk about that tonight. So you make sure that you're in your place, and let's see what we can't do. I, of course, enjoyed my time with Pastor Samuel Owens at the Westside Baptist Church in the Pacifica area. If you're ever out in this area, that's a good church to kind of visit in the San Francisco area. I'd encourage you to do so. Well, I want to talk to you today, though, about the principles of giving. In Luke chapter 21, verse 4, God says, "For all these have of their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God, but she of her penury hath cast in all the living that she had." Now, financial giving is the great revealer of your heart towards God. So you show me the person who is stingy with their giving, and I want to show you a person who is not wholehearted toward God. You show me a person who rarely gives or gives very little. And I'll show you a person who is not invested in their church. Matthew 6:21 declares, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." So God is very much saying how much you give does determine whether you're invested or not in the work of the Lord in your church. If you're not willing to give to your church, you're not invested in it. If you're not willing to give to God, you're not invested in God. Now, Jesus talked about something that he saw in this offering that's worth noting. He said there were several giving offerings to the temple, but all of them, but one was rich. Now, it was the one that caught Jesus' attention. She was a widow woman. The rich didn't, they cast in of their abundance, but the widow gave of her penury or all that she had. Though her two mites didn't seem to be that much compared to what the rich men gave, God said she actually gave more than they had given. Jesus declared that she gave more than the rich men because she gave of her penury and they gave of their abundance. So let's understand these words so we can understand what Jesus is teaching. The word abundance means a large quantity of something. In other words, the rich gave off of the extra that they had. They did not give in something that was, boy, I've got to have this. I'm going to get. They gave off the extra. The word penury means she gave of her penury, which means of her poverty. So Jesus better defines her poverty and what penury means by saying she gave all the living that she had. In other words, this lady was so poor that when she gave, she was giving of the money that was supposed to go towards her bills and her groceries, but she said, I've got to give to God. Now, God was impressed with her because she was giving of her heart. The widow had nothing left after she gave, whereas the rich had plenty to live on after they gave. Now, there's five principles that we learn from this story that we need to apply to our lives. First, the rich and poor are commanded to give. So it's not how much you make that determines how much you give. So if you're a poor person, you're still supposed to give. It may take sacrifice, but you're supposed to give. The rich is also commanded to give. You see, everyone is commanded to give tithes, which is 10%, and offerings. So an offering is above the tithe. So everybody's command, even if you're poor. But get this now, but God gives more attention to the poor giving than he does to the rich because of the sacrifice and the giving. Though the rich are giving their tithes and though they're giving their offerings, they're giving of their abundance. The degree of your wealth or lack thereof does not negate God's command to give tithes and offerings. Second, giving is not to be a show. So this is the case with the rich men. The rich men gave to be a show, and God says, you got your reward. But that didn't impress Jesus. What impressed him was this poor little lady. She gave everything that she had. She gave it privately, but God made it very well known. You see, we're never to give so that others know how much we give. I'm not to give. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you ought to put it in the church envelopes. That helps us be able to decide where it's going to go for general fund, for missions, or for maybe something else. But we've got to know where it's going to go. So, in fact, if you tell others how much you give to show your spirituality, you're showing you're a very unspiritual person and you got your reward. I'd rather give privately and let God reward me openly than to give openly and not get anything back from God. So giving is not to be a show. Third, can I say this? It's not how much is given, but how much of what you have given that matters. Let me explain. The widow gave more than the rich because she gave her all. God rewards how much of our substance we give more than he rewards the amount that we give. If I give $10 and I've got $1,000, get this now, I still got 9,000. I still got $990 left. Whereas if I have $10 and I give $1, I only got $9 left. Now there is a difference in this, whether we like it or not. There's a difference. Now understand, God. Okay, the rich men, they tipped God. If you want to put it that way, I'm just going to give God a tip. Well, God's not interested in your tip. God's interested in your heart, and how much you give. God doesn't want us to have token giving. He wants us to give what we have. He wants us to give according to what he commands us to give. Fourth, God looks for his people to give beyond their abundance. So the rich men gave of their abundance, but the poor lady, she gave of her penury. Most people give of their abundance. Very few give of their penury. Because when you give the penury, you're giving your heart. And that's what God wants. God wants to see. I would challenge every rich person at some point. Why don't you give for a month or 2 months of your penury? Give to the point that God's got to do something to pay your bills. And this will show how much of your heart God has and how much of your faith and trust that God has. Fifth, God looks for and blesses the offering of faith. When your giving gets to the point that it takes faith to give is when you're giving, is when you find God's greatest blessings. God's blessing, God will bless the rich, don't get me wrong, but God's going to bless that widow woman more. You say, why? She gave all. And God looks at the degree of what we have that we give, the amount that we've given compared to what we have, more than what we gave. Because that comparison model, if I give, get this now, $50 and only have 100, I've given half of my income. Whereas if a rich person, let's say a millionaire, gives $10,000, oh, that sounds like a lot, but it's not compared to that $500 that that person had and they gave and they only have a little bit left. Oh, my friend, God, the greatest blessings comes on those who give the most to God, saying, I want to give not of my abundance, but I want to give of my penury. I challenge everybody, at some point in your life, you've got to learn to give of your penury. That's what God blesses the most. And I would challenge you. Let's be a people that give God of our penury and see what God can't do. I'm not saying, ladies and gentlemen, now you say, but preacher, I just don't know if I can afford it. That's where God comes in. God always rewards. The scriptures promise that we've never seen his seed begging for bread. I want to challenge you to be a person who gives of your penury. Don't be a token giver. Don't be a tipping giver. Now, don't stop giving at all, but you keep giving. But I want to ask you to increase and see what God can't do. Do it for the next 2 months. See what God doesn't do to bless you in your giving, because you're giving of your penury and not of your abundance. This is critical for us to know. I'd encourage you to do it. Well, my friend, I hope this is a great help to you today. Now, let's remember today, be good to everyone. Everyone's having a tough time.